Hey guys, what's up? And welcome to Sabrina Talks. So this will be my new video series where I just talk about things like music, movies, television, things that's going on in the culture. You know, various things I like to talk about because I like talking. So today, my first video will be about my CD collection. So I figured this would be a good way to get to know me because I am a music girl. I like all elements of music and how it connects to people and how it just moves you in ways that like other things can't. So I feel like a good way to start getting to know me, be like, who's Sabrina, what's she like, you know, what kind of things she like. My CD collection is a good way to start that. So let's get into it about why I even have Sabrina's, because I know you like Sabrina. It's 2019. No, it's not. It's 2020. What are you doing with some CDs? Well, I am a 90s baby, so, you know, I still grew up with CDs. And if you wanted to listen to a certain song, you know, you either had to play it on the radio or you had to find the CD that had the song and then play that CD. Like, don't get it twisted. I started my CD collection is because my first car was a 1995 car, so it didn't have an aux cable. Sure enough, didn't have no Bluetooth connectivity. I'm pretty sure it had like a cassette player where you could throw cassettes in there and you could play cassettes like that. So yeah, no, it was CDs for Sabrina, or else I would just have to, at the time I think they didn't have like the innovative ways you could do the aux cord for older cars, but I had that. And so I was you know, in college, driving back and forth from my college into my home, and them drives were like an hour and some change, so I needed something to keep me entertained because the radio was not hit. So CDs obviously was the best bet. Now, CDs, I feel like are a safe way of driving because you're not changing the song. You know, when you gotta touch your phone and go on the streaming app and do all of that, you know, you could just press next on your little dashboard or on your steering wheel and you're good to go. And then I just like the nostalgia-ness of it, like having something physical of something that you love. Like, you know, streaming, you gotta be like, oh, where's my phone? You know, I gotta play this song. CD, you could be like, listen, anybody got a car, a boom box, and you good to go. Also, CDs allow you to listen to albums as their complete work. Yes, you can go on streaming or whatever and listen to the whole album as a complete work, but as the kids say, it hits differently when it's a CD because, you know, like with streaming, they're going to suggest other songs that, you know, go with it, or they're going to suggest other artists that kind of go with that vibe of the album. But with the album, you finish with the album, it either stops playing or you listen to it again. And I think that's such a good way of actively listening. Because with streaming, you know, sometimes you can just kind of listen and then, you know, doze off into La La Land. And next thing you know, you're like, the album's done. And the next thing you know, you're hearing somebody completely different because the radio was starting something else. At least with the album, you can actively listen to it in a row. You could play the song 6,000 times and then, you know, skip to the other thing. But like I said, personal preference. So with my CDs today, all of the CDs that I have, with the exception of, I think, 2, that's 3, with the exception of 2, are CDs that I bought with my own money. All my CDs are my CDs because I love that album. Like, I love the complete album from song 1 to song XYZ or whatever. So it becomes car worthy where I can listen from the top song to the bottom song and not skip one song. I think there's maybe 1 or 2 albums where I just kind of skip one song, but even then, I'm skipping it because it's not my favorite, but it's not like I'm skipping it because I hate it or anything. These are not all of my favoriteest albums of all time, but they are some albums that I really, really love. Because I feel like if you're throwing it in your car, you know, that's a testament because you gonna be listening to this. It's not like streaming where you can just shovel to the next song or whatever. Like, you making a commitment to listen to this album from top to bottom at all times you want to listen to it. And I feel like that's different. So I want to get into some honorable mentions of albums that either I want to have in my car or I'm still trying to feel out if it's car worthy. So my first honorable mention is Ology by Gallant. For some reason, since I think I guess you can call him a smaller artist or whatever, but for some reason at like FYE and Target and Walmart, all the places that still technically sell CDs, you just can't find it nowhere, which is irritating. Besides the point, Ology. I mean, honestly, Gallant is fantastic. His vocals, his little like falsetto thing he does, oh, stunning. If you haven't listened to Gallant, I mean, I suggest you go do that. He has like some pop ability, but he's definitely like an R&B soul kind of man. So if you're into that, go listen to him. But I got into this album because I was a radio intern at my college's local radio station. So we got sent CDs from labels, and you know, it was kind of things that you kind of had to play, or they would like you very much to play at least at some point during the day. So his album came in and I listened to it and I was like, wait a minute now, wait a minute, hold the phones. This is popping. So I used to play his songs all the time. I was listening to it so much that I was like, I need to have this album for myself. I still get to get it, but that's besides the point. Yeah, it's so great. It's one of the, definitely one of the top albums I listen to on Spotify and stuff like that. But all of them songs, banging, absolute banging. If you might have heard the song Weight in Gold, which was just, I think, the single for the album, and that one, I think that was in like an Apple commercial or something. All of the songs on the album, fantastic. Honestly, fantastic. 10 out of 10. My next honorable mention is Aminé's 1.5. I've recently, within like, I want to say the last year and a half, got into Aminé, and 1.5, I want to get it for my car, but I need to listen to some of the songs that I'm not like entirely here for more to see if I want to like fully put it in my car. I know I like the album. That's a given. The album's great. It's just whether or not I want to, you know, like I said, I don't like really skipping songs on the album, because to me, if I'm skipping songs, I could just play some of the songs from the album on Spotify or something. So I just want to make sure I'm not skipping any of the songs on this album, but that's a good album that I really love. Cardi B's Invasion of Privacy, fantastic album. The only thing, I don't have any rap albums on, like, in my collection, spoiler alert, but it's cause I feel like rap can sometimes be so aggressive that I don't know if I want to listen to a full album of rap all the time. It could just be like, it'd be a lot sometimes. And sometimes, you know, I'll be driving in the morning and it could be a lot to listen to that. So I like to mull about whether or not I want to do it. But Cardi B's Invasion of Privacy is probably one of the few, besides Aminé's 1.5, rap albums that I'm thinking about putting in my car, because that album is popping. Cardi B really was out here doing the thing. I didn't think I was initially gonna like the full album of Cardi B's, because I was like, I don't know, you know, she has some bangers, but can she do a full album of bangers? But surprisingly, this album's great. I think there's only like one song that I'm like about, but like I said, it's one of my honorable mentions. Another one is Unexpected Arrival by Diggy. Like I said, it's a rap album, but it's Diggy, and I used to be obsessed with Diggy, so, and I love that album. I thought maybe I liked that album because I was kind of in like the fangirl mindset where everything Diggy does is great, but listening to it nowadays, I'm still like, no, this album is still fire. Like, I don't know why he kind of disappeared and you know, whatever, but it's still a great album. And then last but not least is 24 Karat Magic by Bruno Mars. That is a great album. I'm pretty sure I gave that album to one of my best friends for like her car or something, but the only problem with the album is, I love that album, but the only problem is it's 9 songs. 9 songs and a car journey goes by quickly. So that's gonna be like an album that would just be replaying itself, you know, so easily. Cause, you know, me going to the grocery store, that's at least 3 songs right there. And then by the time I come home from the grocery store, the album's done. I don't know. It's just, it goes by too fast. But all them songs, absolute fantastic. I don't care what you say about Bruno Mars. how you feel about him, but them songs popping. All right, let's get into my first CD, which is Ariana Grande's first album, Yours Truly. I'm pretty sure this album is one of the first albums that I bought from my car. Say which one about Ariana? I know she got some problematic things, whatever, but she be creating some bops. Now this first album, that was you know, showing her progression as to how she was gonna be a pop queen and a pop icon, because this first album got all of the bops. I mean, it has a healthy mix of wonderful ballads. It has a great mix of just like poppy radio hits that you can dance to. It's fantastic. So the singles for the album were, I think, The Way with Mac Miller, rest in peace, Baby I, and Right There. Those, I think, were the main singles from the album. So if you know the album, you know those songs. And, you know, this was fresh off of, maybe not fresh, but this was definitely after Sam and Cat and Victorious and all of that. So she was coming out here swinging with the bops. My favorite songs to this day are Tattoo Heart, Daydreaming, fantastic. Almost Is Never Enough with Nathan Sykes, iconic, truly. Piano was also one of the songs that I used to play on repeat, but listen, Tattoo Heart, really soulful. I mean, not soulful as in like the genre, but like you really out here singing from your heart kind of songs that you sing to. Right There with Big Sean, I feel like that was a nice little bob. You know, I had threw some Big Sean in there when I think they were dating. I think they were dating at the time. It doesn't really matter. Yeah, this was definitely, Ariana's come out with multiple albums after this album, but this is definitely still a good staple of the best Ariana. My second album that I have in my CD collection is Multiply by Ed Sheeran. This is his second album. This was released in like 2014, I think. It has about 16 songs, and then like there's a bonus track. This is definitely one of my favorite Ed albums. You'll see, because I also have upside down the vinyl to it. Now, I believe this was one of his first albums that he brought into like the vinyl phase and whatever, that the vinyl resurgence, I should say. So this was one of his first albums that was able to be on vinyl. So obviously I got it because Hello is my favorite. But yeah, this album, this is another one of them albums that I used to play all the time whenever I was traveling from college to home, because this, with it being 16 songs, this could definitely take you an hour's journey. I'd say it'd take me most of the way home, and I could just listen to this on repeat and not have to worry about nothing. You know, it'd be great. Now, if you don't know, I'm a big Ed Sheeran fan. He also has some problematic things that people don't, you know, like to pick at him for, but I don't pay attention to that nonsense. There's cancel culture because, you know, people are upset about things, but some things I don't think are as serious as people proclaim it to be. Granted, everybody views things differently, but besides the point. Singles out of this album that you would probably know is Thinking Out Loud. That was definitely, you know, the wedding song, the song that kind of skyrocketed him off into space because he was just so popular off of this song. I believe Photograph was his other single, and Sing and Don't were his other singles, but Thinking Out Loud really was the song that kind of took him flying. Now, some of my favorite songs off the album is a song called Take It Back. This features, as I like to call him, rapper Ed. Obviously Ed's not a rapper. I think it's great because he jokes about how he's not a rapper and, you know, he's just a singer with a flow, as he calls it. I think it's cute. I think it's great. One of my favorite things about Ed, so that song is one of my favorites. And then he has another song called I See Fire. That was on the soundtrack for The Hobbit, I believe, I think it's The Hobbit. But he had made that song, and there's a progression towards like a climax of the song that happens, and it just, chef's kiss. It's just beautiful. It's just stunning. His like more mellow kind of folky, I guess you want to say, voice with the elements of that song really just meld well together, and I love it. My next two albums are both from the same person, hence why I'm combining them, but they're both from Sam Smith, and it's his only two albums that he got as of right now, which is The Thrill of It All and his debut album, In the Lonely Hour. Now, both these albums, wow. I got the In the Lonely Hour when I was still in college and stuff like that, and this was also one of my songs that I used to belt out singing with my best friend. Fun times. This album, you know, is when Sam Smith got onto the scene. He had his single Stay With Me, took over the nation, took over some of the world. But yeah, this is fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I was like, wow, I love Sam. How can he top this album? Came out with The Thrill of It All. I mean, he was just like throwing buckets with the bops on this song or this album. Back to In the Lonely Hour. This one had such good singles out. You know, there's sometimes where our artists put the singles out and you're like, oh, these are great, but then you look at the full album and you're like, wow, these are better songs on the full album than the singles. Now, his singles were actually really, really good. So it was I'm Not the Only One, Stay With Me, and Lay Me Down, what I believe were his top, you know, singles out the album. Those are probably some of the best songs on the album. Granted, it's not the only good songs on the album because the whole album's great. But it's definitely, he really crafted the singles really great, or at least his record label or whoever. Now, this is one of the albums where I said I kind of skipped some of the songs. The first song, Money on the Mind, I like it, but sometimes I just don't be in the mood for it. So sometimes it gets a nice little skip. But most of the time I listen to this from top to bottom. This album has 10 songs. So this does go by quickly. And there is a deluxe version of this album, which is also really good, except I just couldn't get my hands on the deluxe version. So this is what I got. But fantastic, wonderful. Now, The Thrill of It All, it was released in 2017, so it's his most recent album. This, wow, he really just grew into such a wonderful artist, even though he was already before, but it got amplified. So the singles on this album was Too Good at Goodbyes, One Last Song, and Pray. Pray was, I believe, the biggest out of the three, and then I think it was Too Good at Goodbyes, and then I believe One Last Song was like the single that came after the album already was out. Now, One Last Song is my favorite song. Each time I listen to this album though, I gain a new favorite, but One Last Song is definitely my like consistent favorite. It's just great, feels good, sounds beautiful. One song that I feel like a lot of people should listen to just because it's just wow. I feel like the message behind it, the like cleverness of the way he kind of came about the song, I guess you can say, is really good. It's a song called Him. Him is spelled with a capital H-I-M. So he kind of interplays with that him as in men and him as in God, which I think is great. Nothing Left for You is another fantastic song where he just kind of plays his heart out and he just sings, and it's fantastic. If you listen to any of the songs on this album, fully believe you need to listen to Nothing Left for You, fully believe you need to listen to Him, and maybe One Last Song because I think it's great. But you know, listen to the album for yourself and let me know. The next album I'll be talking about is Alessia Cara's Know It All. Now, I used to be obsessed with this girl because I thought she was great. I still think she's great. She kind of disappeared into the abyss for a little bit. You know, I think she won a Grammy for Best New Artist, or she was nominated. I can't fully remember right now because, you know, I'm getting old. But this was her debut album, and this was a really good album. I don't listen to it as much anymore. I like listen to it on my Spotify, but not my physical CD anymore, because sometimes you'll see, I have a lot of CDs. I sometimes just be forgetting about it. But re-listening to it, I'm like, wow, this is really, it's just such a good album. And for her to only be like 17, 16 or whatever age she was, and she was writing all her own songs, it was great. Singles out of this was Here, Wild Things, and I think Scars to You're Beautiful. Now, Here was the song that got her like, but but I'm thinking it was kind of the beginning of like the loner child who doesn't like parties. It was kind of when like Lorde was around, who also, you know, kind of had a song where it was like, I don't like the upper class, and, you know, being around kids who like to smoke and drink when I don't like doing all those things. It was kind of around that era, I think. All her songs were just great. Scars to You Beautiful was like, that was a really nice, like, sentimental, you know, or having like a nice little story about someone who maybe like cuts themselves or doesn't like themselves, or, you know, has an eating disorder and stuff like that, but telling them that they're still beautiful, which is a great message. My favorite songs off this album were Stone and Stars, were both quite mellow ballads that I think were really, really beautiful. Wild Things was also great. I think that's just a fun song. Since she was a teenager at that time, it embodies a whole lot of like teen feelings and emotions and like perspectives. So I feel like if this was in a teen movie, it'd be great. My next album is Pentatonic's self-titled, it's not their debut album. I think this is like, I don't know, they got a lot of albums out, but this is the first album that they have that has mostly original songs. There's 4 songs out of this 17 song album that are covers, which is what Pentatonics was known for. So if you don't know who Pentatonics is, if you somehow were blind to them, they started off as an a cappella group on a singing show, and then they formed their own YouTube channel, which blew up because they got, I think they did mashups of Michael Jackson songs, all Daft Punk songs, and I think they did like a Beyonce one. I'm pretty sure they did like a if rap were like musicals ones. Google Pentatonics and you'll see, guarantee you'll see a video you've seen before of them. They have albums of covers they did and like mashups that they did that they originally crafted and stuff like that. But this is their first album that has all originals. Now, I love Pentatonics, so I knew it wasn't gonna be bad. I knew they have composers on there, like Avi, who was one of the original members. He's definitely like an arranger and a composer, as well as Kevin. Both of them were composers and arrangers, so I knew they figured something out. And they sure enough did. I mean, this album is great. It's just filled, I don't know, it brings me joy because they are an a cappella group, so all of the sounds you hear are from one of their mouths, like, and they just do a great job. I don't understand how you cannot. I guess I can understand, but to me, Pentatonics is just so good that it'd be amazing for someone to be like, nah, I just don't like them. I can understand you're not vibing with them, but liking them, you can't see that talent jumping out of them. I mean, come on. So I believe their like major single from this album was Can't Sleep Love. That was a good song. It had a beautiful, colorful music video. They also had a single called Sing. I don't think that ended up being too popular, at least as much as like Can't Sleep Love was. And their cover of Justin Bieber's Where Are You Now was also one of the singles, which also I think was relatively popular. My favorite songs though, they have a song called Misbehavin', that's great. It features Mitch and Scott, who are some of the 2 lead vocalists, I guess you can say. Features them 2, fantastic. It's a cute song where you're like, I'm, you know, out with my friends, don't worry about me misbehaving because I'm only coming home to you, so don't worry about it. It's wonderful. They also have a cover of If I Ever Fall in Love with Jason Derulo. Now listen to me. Listen to me. That song, fantastic. The original song is great, wonderful. But Pentatonic's version with Jason Derulo, I mean, I used to play that song so many times. I'm pretty sure there was plenty of people who seen me in my cars just belting my little heart out to this song because it's just wonderful. It's not even like, you know, they covered it and was like, the original is better, like y'all could have kept that to yourself. No, this was like oh, y'all did y'all thing, y'all made that your own, and it was great. But overall, this album was great. I mean, they did such a good job for their first album of original songs that I'm elated that it was just so good. Then my next album is Fall Out Boy's Save Rock and Roll. Now, Fall Out Boy went on a little hiatus for a little while. They was not making no music. I'm pretty sure they was doing solo stuff, or if they was just, you know, chilling. I don't know. But they came back, and they came back with this album, and I was so excited. Because if you don't know me, I loved early 2000s, 2010s pop punk. I'm a pop punk girl, or at least when it comes to like that era. So like Green Day, My Chemical Romance, Panic at the Disco, and Fall Out Boy were my jams. As a preteen, those were my songs and my people. So Fall Out Boy has always been one of my favorite bands. I was worried when they would come back because I thought they might like mess it up, or just I thought it might not be as good as some of their older songs like Dance Dance and Sugar We're Going Down Swinging, or Sugar We're Going Down, I guess it was the official like song title. But this album still, they did their thing. It still remained all elements of good Fall Out Boy. So the singles off of this was My Songs to Know What You Did in the Dark, because obviously they had to have some song that had a ridiculously long title for no reason. But that was a good song. They also had Alone Together, Young Volcanoes, and The Phoenix. All those were really, really good. My Songs Know What You Did in the Dark, I believe, was the most like single of the album. My faves off this album is The Mighty Fall, that has Big Sean. I am a sucker for rap and rock and roll or pop punk or whatever genre you want to call it, you know, intermingling with each other. I always think that's fun. Where Did the Party Go is a great song. It has like funky elements to it. It's definitely a song where you just gotta, you know, hit a little shoulder move to it, because it's just fun to dance to. And Just One Yesterday, which has one of my favorite songs out the whole, or favorite lines out the whole album. Anything you say can and will be held against you, so only say my name, or something like that. But that's one of my favorite lines out of the whole entire album, because I think it's really funny, and I think it's just like really clever. I showed you all the other like college road trip, you know, albums I used to listen to all the time. You know, all of those mostly filled with ballads, me singing my little heart out, and then they'll have little like splashes of bops. Now this album I played when I needed to be awake. I used to, you know, sometimes I used to drive back to school at like 5, 6 in the morning, real early, and I'm not a morning person, so I needed some songs that would keep me awake. This album, with them heavy guitars and drums and all of that, this album was it. That album was like a little dose of caffeine for me, because it just gave me so much energy. And if I played it loudly and hear all of the beats, all of the guitar, you know, strings and all of that, and that definitely kept me awake.